And hello everybody, welcome back to RFC News. Ladies and gentlemen, this season still is ongoing. We've got a big game this weekend, regardless of us not being actual title contenders no more. We of course don't want to see Celtic win a title. And we also need to try and finish second because that gets us into those Champions League qualifiers. Now, I have full faith in the Rangers team to actually go out there, probably play our best football of the season and beat Celtic at Parkhead. Now that the pressure is off, now that we cannot win a trophy, I fully expect us to go out there and play some of the best football that we have ever seen. That's the same story that we see time and time again. Now, whilst eyes are, of course, turning towards the final Old Firm fixture of the season, a lot of fans are disgruntled of what they've seen over the last couple of days. And question marks have been out there. Questions are being asked of the manager. Is Danny Rohl the man to take us into next season? Well, a lot of fans aren't convinced going into the next campaign. However, again, we don't really know where we would sit. We don't know where the board sit on this and whatever. However, some would say that Danny Rohl has done a good job so far this season. And that takes us to today's headline. Interestingly enough, that Danny Rohl is actually being eyed up for a potential Bundesliga homecoming, and a German club do want him as their next head coach. Let's break this down, guys. But first, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more. So, Danny Rohl, ladies and gentlemen, what we're seeing this morning coming out from the Scottish sources and some German sources is that Rangers boss Danny Rohl is reportedly on a shortlist to take charge of Bundesliga strugglers Wolfsburg. As we know, the German coach was only appointed as Rangers manager in October, and of course did get us back into a title race, as I keep on hearing time and time again, but ended this treacherous post-split fixtures with 2 defeats out of 2 already, and took us out of a title race. However, it does seemingly look like the German club Wolfsburg have named him on that shortlist and want him to take over going into next season, or could be a potential candidate to take over going into next season. Now, we know he is an ex-Bayern Munich coach. He's a German man himself and is a highly rated young head coach, manager in his homeland and, of course, in England as well. And as we know, he has got a really good win rate so far at Rangers. And a lot of people can, differentiate and separate the two, especially a club like Wolfsburg, where, the pressure isn't as big. However, they want an impact coach to do a similar job to that of Sheffield Wednesday. This could be a match made in heaven, and surely could be an attractive option for him, because whether you like it or not, in terms of Rangers, Wolfsburg, there's no comparisons. However, as we know, the bigger leagues is sometimes where we see managers take that step. Danny's only lost 6 games. And if you're looking at the sort of table, if you like, we did a makeshift table. Finally, despite those 2 defeats that we had, Danny would actually be top of the table out of the 27 games that he played. He would have 58 points. Celtic would have 56 points and Hearts would have 54 points, all from Danny's first game in charge. However, as we know, it doesn't quite work out like that. But interestingly enough, guys, Danny Rohl is being eyed by Wolfsburg. Interesting. Very, very interesting indeed, and something that we'll be watching on upon, because I'm seeing a lot of fans and I'm seeing a lot of supporters calling for Danny Rohl to go. But if Danny Rohl left and went to a different club and was eyed up for a different club, that would make it be no compensation whatsoever. In fact, we probably would get compensation paid to us for Danny Rohl to go, and then Rangers could go and get another manager without sort of having to sack an individual, if you get what I mean. But a lot of people are already going, well, should we go get Steven Gerrard again? Well, let's see what happens. Of course, it's probably going to be a big summer. There's going to be a lot of clubs looking for new managers, and that may sort of spiral down. But today's headlines, guys, Danny Rohl being eyed and is on a shortlist to take over as the Wolfsburg manager. Let me know your thoughts on that down there in the comments. Rangers are preparing for what could become one of the most defining summers in recent memory, and one of the first major talking points already appears to have emerged surrounding Ross McCausland. The Northern Ireland international is now expected to return to Ibrox at the conclusion of his loan spell with Aris Limassol, after opting against a permanent stay in Cyprus, despite the club holding an option to buy him.
According to reports, McCausland and his representatives made it clear months ago that they intended to head back to Glasgow rather than continue long-term with Aris, where he has spent the season alongside familiar Rangers faces in Leon Balogun and Connor Goldson. It is a significant development because at one stage there had been a growing belief that his future may permanently lie away from Ibrox. Instead, the 22-year-old is now heading back into what could be a fascinating crossroads moment in his career. McCausland's return arrives at a time when Rangers are expected to undergo a dramatic rebuild following another bitterly disappointing campaign. The defeat to Hearts at Tynecastle only intensified criticism surrounding the squad, the mentality within the team, and the recruitment structure that has failed to consistently deliver players capable of restoring Rangers to the top of Scottish football. Amid all of that uncertainty, McCausland's situation feels symbolic of the wider questions hanging over the club. There is no doubt the winger still possesses qualities that will attract attention. Even while away from Scotland, clubs across England and Europe are believed to have continued monitoring his progress closely, and Rangers may not have long before offers begin arriving. Whether the club views him as part of the future or as a valuable asset capable of generating transfer funds remains to be seen. But his return certainly adds another layer of intrigue to what is already shaping up to be a chaotic summer at Ibrox. Much could depend on the plans of Danny Rohl. The Rangers boss is expected to oversee a major reshaping of the squad ahead of the 2026-27 season, and difficult decisions will inevitably need to be made. McCausland is one of several players returning from loan spells whose futures appear far from certain, and the manager will need to quickly decide who fits into his long-term vision and who does not. Some situations already appear straightforward. Oscar Cortez and Jose Cifuentes have struggled to convince during their time connected with Rangers, and there is little indication either player will suddenly become central figures moving forward. Both may soon find themselves searching for fresh opportunities once again, as Rangers attempt to clear space in both the squad and wage structure. Ben Davies also faces an uncertain future after enduring relegation with Oxford United, while Leon King's contract situation adds another dilemma for the hierarchy. King is impressed during his spell with Ayr United, and many supporters believe he deserves a genuine opportunity to establish himself in the Rangers' first team. Yet with his deal nearing expiry, the club risk losing another promising Scottish talent unless swift decisions are made. Danilo's situation only adds further complexity. The Brazilian striker was allowed to join NEC Nijmegen during the winter window in the hope he could reignite his career, but limited minutes in the Netherlands have done little to provide clarity over his future. Whether NEC choose to activate their option to buy could ultimately determine whether Rangers are forced into another difficult conversation regarding a player who once arrived with significant expectations. However, amid all the uncertainty, one player increasingly looks capable of becoming central to Rangers' future plans: Finlay Curtis. The young forward has impressed heavily during his loan spell at Kilmarnock under Neil McCann and Billy Dodds, and many now see him as exactly the type of player Rangers should be building around moving forward. Curtis's emergence comes at a particularly important moment because one of the loudest criticisms directed at Rangers in recent weeks has centred around the lack of Scottish identity within the squad. Following the loss to Hearts, many supporters and pundits question how a club of Rangers' stature had drifted so far away from developing and trusting homegrown talent. Curtis making his debut for the Scotland national football team only strengthened the argument that Rangers possess young Scottish players capable of becoming genuine stars if given the platform. For that reason, it would feel almost impossible to justify overlooking him next season. Rangers fans are desperate for players they can connect with again. Footballers who understand the pressure, intensity, and expectations that come with representing the club. But that is all for today's video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We post all the latest Rangers news every single day, so join our fast growing community so you never miss out. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.